Hello and welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Concept Show, exclusive to the PAUK radio network. I'm your host Paul Rook, and as always we are joined in the studio by the stupendous Kerry Greenaway and Richard Clements. Hello guys.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, I'm very well, thank you.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm okay. I'm feeling good. Good in the hood.
Been up to much this week?
Me, I've been spring cleaning all week.
Oh,
Oh dear. I always say I have a small flat, but when it comes to spring cleaning, it suddenly doubles in size. I'm sure it does.
yeah, I feel your pain, Rich.
Have you got to your spring cleaning yet, dear?
Not a chance, no. I don't even get a chance to breathe some days properly, let alone bloody spring clean.
Oh, right. I've got a couple of bags of dust.
I am looking at my windows. The sun's starting to rise a little higher off the horizon, and it shines in at that angle that shows every cobweb and window smudge going. So yeah, it needs doing. I'm not
You should
gonna
always leave a cobweb in the corner and let the little spider, sort of good pest control, I think.
I have them in my conservatory, don't I? I don't disturb the ones in the conservatory roof.
Mm-hmm.
Well, very rarely do I. When it gets really bad, I do. Don't want to look like Lady Havisham?
Oh yeah.
I don't want to go quite that far, but you know. Oh dear. What about you, Paul? We never ask how you are.
I know. I've been busy with my new venture, the jewellery making. I find it quite therapeutic, actually.
Bit of retail therapy, making therapy, is it?
Yeah.
Arts and crafty type thing.
Absolutely, yeah. Arts and crafty.
So what is
Definitely.
it? Tell me what it is.
They are crystal necklaces.
Ooh.
I buy the crystals from my very special crystal supplier.
Who's that?
That would be you.
Me? Little old me? Spirit and Soul Island crystals, everybody.
Yeah. And then I transform them into necklaces.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And I have to say, some beautiful ones there are too.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be buying some more at the weekend.
Yeah, got my boys over this weekend, haven't I?
Oh yeah, because we're coming over to yours this weekend, aren't we?
Yeah, got my boys round.
Yeah.
What mischief can we get up to this weekend, boys?
Oh, I don't know.
It's not warm enough yet to do evening trips out anywhere, to be fair.
No, it isn't really, is
Still
it?
Still too cold. I'm sure we can find something to get up to.
I'm sure we can.
Yeah.
Maybe have a little play with my doll, my Anaconda doll.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yes, because you've got one of those, haven't you, now?
I do. Maybe we'll have a little play with that. Who knows? We'll see. I'm sure we'll tell you all about that next week. But this week, we're bringing a topic to the table that our lovely Richard came up with, didn't you, darling?
No, Paul did.
Did Paul? I thought it was you.
It was, well, both of us, really.
Well, both of us. I have an interest in this subject, but I think Paul sort of said it last week, and yeah, but it's a subject that is close to my heart as well.
Why, boys? Why is the question?
I think it's a fascinating subject, and it really does sort of dig into a sort of like an aspect of the paranormal. Sort of, we don't tend to pay a lot of attention to, or people or individuals don't tend to pay a lot of attention to, is folklore.
True.
Yeah,
that's true. What? So folklore is a weird one, isn't it? Really.
It's sort of, it is and it isn't it?
It's like personal experiences that are related down the line, and they take on a life of their own. Is that how you would explain it?
Yeah, I suppose it is really, and you know, they're not necessarily, the stories aren't necessarily, I'm not saying that necessarily true. I mean, there's got to be something behind them, but they're not necessarily what we think that they are. You know, it's more of an ancestral memory, I like to call it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Paul? Definitely. No, it's just the different variations in different folklores. I know basically we're going to be talking about the Black dog or the black shuck.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I've had this discussion with other people,
Mm.
it's always centered around Norfolk and that sort of area.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I do know there are other stories all over the country that never really get the limelight, if that makes sense.
No, I think it's more worldwide, actually.
Yeah, they're certainly sort of like UK and North America, and I'm sure your research, Kerry, will flush out a few other locations. But we'll have to wait and see. But the black dog, and we're quite fortunate because it is quite prolific in this area we live in. So we can call it our own, can't we?
Well, it does. When we talk about this, it does automatically. You think, oh, it's UK only
Yeah,
or European.
yeah.
You might think more European, us more included in that. And I kind of think we feel that this is kind of like a homegrown one. But it astonished me when I started looking at this, the cross culture and the different names. There's hundreds of different names for this
No,
as
yeah.
well. As like what we would call a black shuck or a black dog in another culture or another area of the country, even. It's a different name. But we're going to go through this. We're going to have a look at the black dog folklology. I'm going to call it folklology.
All right, it's another new word.
Love a new word. Add that one to the dictionary, Paul.
Absolutely, I will do. Writing it down now.
I used the word liney the other day. It's a bit too liney,
Oh,
Okay.
right.
right? And someone said, that's not a word. I was like, yeah, line is a word, right?
Yeah, it's a Kerryism.
And apparently it isn't a word.
It's a Kerryism.
Well, that's what I said. I said, well, if it isn't, it should be.
Yeah, it sounds right, doesn't it? A liney.
Yeah, exactly. It's too liney
Yeah.
for me. I thought that
Whilst,
made sense.
Yeah,
whilst
too
you were
many lines
talking,
on the page.
there, guys, I could hear our show Black Dog moving around in the background.
He is. He's a little unsettled tonight, so we may even get vocalism out of him
Oh,
tonight.
right.
Because I am home alone. I've got no kids in the background. You'll be glad to know, screaming at people on the internet, on their games. So that's and when they're not here, tends to be when more weirder stuff happens.
All right.
And now I've got my Nakondi doll. I keep seeing shadows.
Really?
Yeah, it's a true story.
All right.
Yes, a couple of times.
We'll
And
have to...
the thing is, the kids have always been here. So I've always sort of like been putting it down to it must have been them kind of thing. But there's been a couple of occasions where I've thought it can't be. They're in their rooms. They haven't moved. You can, because they're noisy, you can hear where they are. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying it is, but it isn't. But it just seems weird that since I've had that in the house, I have seen a few shadows of things that I thought, oh, and then no, it's not what I thought. It's really weird. Not an easy feeling. It's not an uneasy feeling. I'm not going to say
No.
it feels. It's just little things that I'm thinking, what was that? Do you know what I mean? But yeah. Anyway, we'll talk more about that next week. I would imagine.
Oh, yeah, sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is good. And I'm still doing some work with it, so haven't got any relevant information I can research from it specifically. That's kind of what I want to do, is sort of like work spiritually with it and then sort of see if I can back that up factually, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm trying not to look too much into them at this moment in time because I don't want to pollute what I do get. Anyway, I've digressed. I've gone off on an angle. Black dogs. Talking of black dogs. Right. Okay. So we kind of think it's more of a British phenomena, and maybe Scotland and Ireland. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The British Isles. In Scotland, their belief system is more around something called, and I apologise for any pronunciations about this show, as always, Susith or Cusith,
Pusif.
or the Green Fairy Dogs, as you
We'll
do.
just go with
The
them
Green
ones.
Fairy Dogs, right?
Yeah, you can say them.
Now, obviously, the dog tends to be more nocturnal,
Mm-hmm.
and has certain, you can kind of break it down into certain characteristics. Okay, so like there's always a sort of omen linked to it, whether it be good or bad. There's always sort of like that link to an event, like generally seen as portents of death, you know what I mean, or
Yeah.
devils and things like that. But they have been seen as guardians as well.
Oh, right. So
Yeah, I
they-
was gonna say, I think it's just down to the individual folklore, because
Yeah.
there are ones that are, harbourers of doom, but others have seen them as soldiers of fortune.
Exactly. There are differences. There are differences in the stories and folkology that are around. There's a lot of different stories, and they go quite far back.
Yeah.
As you know, as we've said, it goes almost like ancestral roots in this. Now, they kind of break down into three kind of separate specifications, I would say.
Right.
So you've got this shape-shifting demon hound.
I've got to have a demon there somewhere, yeah.
A shape-shifting one at that.
A shape shifting, yeah.
Or a large, shaggy, black-coloured dog, what you would imagine. So you would think it was just a dog. Yeah. A dog that only appears at certain times in certain places. So it's like localized. So yeah. But I would say this on the shapeshifty thing tends to not really be the true black dog that we talk about.
No, I wouldn't
They tend to be a bit
associate.
different.
I wouldn't associate that sort of summing up to be a black dog.
Whenever I've come across a black dog, shapeshifting has never been part of it.
No.
But as you'll find out as we go later in the show, you'll understand why that is put in there because of a link to something else. But we'll go into that further on in the research, right?
Yeah.
So there are 5 definable characteristics. So like it's a man's best friend kind of thing. So it associates with humans. Now, in regards to that particular one, they see it as almost vampiric.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay, in regards to it's taking its energy from the person.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so that's where they're not
Right.
talking about blood sucking. They're talking about, or I suppose, energy vampiring. That's where it gets its energy from, almost like a familiar.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It protects the family or the human and the property of that person, so it's guardian.
Yeah.
It could be, we talked about malevolent side to this, the angel of death, portenting, I think is the word, isn't it? Death, a bit like the banshee.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, a bit like the banshee. Scavenger. So wherever there's a great deal of death, like battlefields, this would have been older battlefields more than thing. But what's interesting about that one is that when we did the World War One trenches show, we found a story about packs of dogs that would roam no man's land. Do you remember that? So I think that's come from an older folklore tale of the older battlefields, like going back in time.
Yeah.
There was the horses and stuff like that. But on that one, what I would say is you have to take into account people's emotional experiences at that time and the stress and strain that they've been under and the pain and the hurt and the physical excess that they've had to do in that circumstance. And a battlefield, I can imagine back in the day, would not have been a pleasant sight. And they wouldn't have cleared away all the dead people straight away, would they?
Well, that's right. And sort of back in the days of ancient knights and stuff, dogs were used in battle anyway.
Right. So to have them scavenging off the battlefield wouldn't have surprised me. So when we talk in regards to the black dogs folkology, I'm going to keep saying that word. Sorry, folks.
Folkology.
I love it. I think we should. I'm going to make it. I don't know. It probably is a word. Never come across that one, Mitch?
Folkology. It's an ology, isn't it? And there's a lot of ologies out there. Folkology. We'll have to look it up later.
We'll have to have a nose at that one. Anyway, so when we look at that particular one, I think that it's probably more a rational explanation on that one.
Yeah.
Now, and they also say that the black dog house at the moon, as you know, why not?
Well, that's it. Part of the wolf family, isn't it? Really, I think that comes from.
And huskies howl, don't they? So dogs do
Yeah,
howl.
they do
So,
howl, yeah.
what puts the black dog different from like a normal dog, and the underpins this whole folklore regarding these dogs, is that the black dog is usually larger than a normal dog, a lot larger than a normal dog.
They usually say about the size of a calf, don't they?
A calf, yeah. They're quite big, really, calves. That it has glowing red eyes, and that it comes with a certain feeling as well. When I was looking at this, a lot of personal accounts were talking about how it made them feel. And it wasn't, it felt something out of the ordinary. Like if you was walking, like when you think about where black dogs are usually associated with, they're usually associated with crossroads, trackways, old trackways, this is, places of execution, like gallows or gibbets. They used to be placed at crossroads, which is where the crossroad thing comes in.
Yeah.
So I can kind of understand it, but the feeling that comes with the sighting is it triggers something different rather than, oh, I saw a dog while I was out walking today. I saw a black dog while I was out walking today. Do you know what I mean? Kind of thing. So that was quite prevalent in how it makes you feel, the feeling. But then I've heard that talk as well around fairies. When a friend of mine was working quite closely with the Fae, she did a ritual, and then she was in the country, and she said it felt like it was during the day, and then she did the ritual, and then it felt like it had changed to dusk.
Okay.
There were no birds singing. There was and it was like a step into a different realm.
Yeah.
Kind of feeling. And then she didn't see any specific fairies like you would imagine, or come across any people in that, but it was a definite vibe change. And then as she moved away from that area, it changed back to what she had been doing before it had happened, if that makes sense. So she says it worked for her, and she feels that they were watching and keeping their eye on her. It's a really strange phenomena when things like that happen, and this is how this feels when you talk about this. But there's lots and lots of fiction upon experience, shall we say. It's a bit like the fish was this big from a fisherman kind of scenario.
Yeah, they don't exaggerate at all.
No, exactly right. Now, it does tend to be more natural, try natural, places that you would come across a black dog. So you're looking at, like I said, crossroads, trackways, more natural ones, streams, rivers, where you pass from one place to another. We call them liminal places.
Okay.
Do you remember me talking about this before?
Yeah.
Yeah, where you cross over.
Yeah, it's like in East Anglia. I mean, there's quite reports, sort of by the sea, and that's another a liminal place. You've got that border between the tide and the land and the sea, haven't you?
You have, definitely. So all of these places that we're talking about tend to be liminal places, and on top of that, you've got churchyards, like burial sites, graveyards, those sort of places. You've got the old prehistoric sites as well, like stone circles and places like that. You get a lot of these sightings. And interestingly enough, hollowed or burnt out trees.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah. Sites of old battles, going back to them feeding on carrion and dead meat.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So you'll see them around sites of old battles. Those kind of places is what you're looking at. None of them surprise me. A lot of them are liminal places.
Yeah.
And we talk liminal places not just on the edge of something or a changing habitat or going through from one environment into another, but also where you're passing through a transitional phase. So a graveyard would be a transitional phase, for example.
Hmm.
I can
Yeah,
understand why a
yeah.
battlefield would be classed as one of those, because a lot of people passed through on that one. And burnt out trees, it's changed itself from a living tree into a dead tree, basically.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So you've got that change going on there. These are liminal sites, liminal places. Okay. Now they do vary though. The appearances vary from location to location. But within that location, it tends to be a specific location.
Hmm.
Okay. So you won't get it. You'll get like, take Norfolk, for example. The stories link to one specific place. It's not like you get lots of scattered sightings. You'll get lots of sightings in that one area. You might get the same a black dog sighting in another area in Norfolk, but they'll be local to that. You don't get the crossover so much,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. Now in Wales, um, what's really interesting actually is where they reckon that they appear are old Scandinavian settlements.
Okay.
Yeah, this is sort of something I've heard as well, and and the Vikings did bring dogs over with them.
Mm,
And that's what really makes me think. And especially if they're sort of seen along rivers and sort of, because the Vikings did come upstream a fair bit in their longboats. They're quite
Yeah.
shallow draft,
mhm,
and they could actually sort of penetrate the landscape quite far inland before disembarking.
mm,
So that that aspect of the black dog does fascinate me.
mm. One thing that occurred to me though, I don't know. I don't know. You might be able to educate me on this one. Did the Vikings hit Wales?
I'm not too sure. There's not really a tradition of Vikings being in Wales, unless a listener can correct me on this. But no, I don't think so. It was sort of mainly sort of like the eastern part of the country through to the Midlands and then down.
Because that's what I kind of thought. I thought it was more sort of like
Mm,
our side, as it were,
yeah.
and sort of like up a bit. But in Wales, they have the apparition. It's known as Dog of Darkness or Welsh Gwilgi. Gwilgi.
Really.
Hmm.
I'll say I've just found out that they were in Wales.
Oh, they were.
Yeah,
Oh,
the first recorded raid on Wales occurred in 852, and they were the Vikings.
oh, right. So they
Ah,
were in Wales.
So
so they were.
basically North Wales. I think that one was.
Ah, okay. Because I
Yeah.
was wondering if they weren't. I was wondering if it was more to do with the um, clan aspect or the tribal aspect.
Mm,
Because like in Wales, it was like lots of lords, I suppose you would call them. There probably is a better name for it, but
Yeah.
clans, weren't
A,
there?
a clan system like you would have had in Scotland
And Ireland.
and Ireland. Yeah. Very
Yeah.
sort of. Yeah.
Wales is very much like that. And so are the Vikings.
Mm,
So it kind of made me wonder if that was the kind of link there rather than it being the Viking. But if they were there, then obviously that's where it comes from.
hmm.
So even now in our own psyche, as modern people, we have the black dog influence. don't we? This dog is snoring. My dog, my black dog, now snoring. Would just like to point that out. I thought, no background noise, brilliant. And the dog is snoring.
And now he's got up.
It's because I mentioned him. But it's still very much prevalent for us. Think of Hound of the Baskervilles.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, you know, things like that. And that mythology, it strikes a chord. And although Hound of the Baskervilles is like, God, how many years old now is that story from Arthur Conan Doyle?
Yeah, must be.
It's recreated time and time again, isn't it?
Yeah, must be at least 100 years old, that story.
Mm-hmm. Now, it is in the UK, it is the black dog is sighted in two main areas. So you've got Cambridge, Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk, which we're all sort of like the southeast corner, yeah?
Yep.
For us lot. And Lincolnshire and Staffordshire.
Yeah.
Now, the difference being is in our corner of the world, the Cambridge, Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk area, yeah, it's the roads, coasts and fens and churchyards.
Roads,
Whereas
coast.
in
Yeah.
Lincolnshire and Staffordshire, it's more gravesides and wells, water link there.
Yeah, another water link. Yeah,
Mhm.
water link's quite prevalent, isn't it? You know, it's been mentioned a lot.
It does come up an awful lot. I can understand why people in the paranormal always jump to that, oh, there's water, or something to do with water as to a reason for paranormal hauntings, because there does seem to be a lot of activity and you can link it to water.
Same with ufology as well. You know,
Exactly.
a big link with water
hmm
there. So,
Yeah, so I think water has got a lot to answer for. What it exactly is about water, I don't know. But when you think about it, there's even water in the air, but you know, particles in the air.
well, yeah.
It's everywhere. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to the question, but
No, I don't know the answer to that.
but it does
Honestly.
seem quite
It's
weirdly
you know
fair.
it's weird, and you know, and it is mentioned so much. It must mean something, but
hmm
what, I don't know.
What was interesting for me, when I was looking into the stone tape theory, and looking for, because everyone said, oh, it's because there's water and stone tape theory, and water is the recording element and all the rest of it. And I was thinking, well, no, because water is transient; it moves, right? So that can't be the answer, because how do you explain like the water runs through the building and runs away? It's like it's forever moving, isn't it? Water, it's
Yeah.
fluid, hence it's a fluid. So when I was looking into it, I found that there was, because I then looked into rocks and can rocks store water, and there is sort of like a if I say gel, it makes it seem too much of a mass. We're talking microscopic. And it does store in rocks in this like silicon jelly type substance, but it's water.
Oh, right.
Really interesting, actually. I found
Yeah,
that
sounds
fascinating
it.
because I didn't know that. But because I was thinking ancient rocks, if something happened like in the 1600s and it's replaying, then surely that water has still got to be present. If you go on the theory, which is not true, but you go on the theory that water holds memory, that water would have gone, right? Washed away.
Yeah.
But then if it's stored in this sort of substance within the rock, that could possibly explain it.
I remember having this sort of discussion with you before about the stone tape theory
Yeah.
in respect of that. And we were saying about maybe it's the water. We even looked at the compound of carbon.
hmm
So we were thinking maybe it wasn't the water, maybe it was the carbon.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'd totally follow you on that one.
The problem I have with that is it gets so scientific, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And no disrespect, I'm not a scientist. I'm not well read enough and understanding enough of those elements to follow up any decent research on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I'd end up having to have like a PhD in chemistry and geology, I think, to sort of like really get to a point which I could possibly start answering it. But we like to muse, don't we, guys?
We do like to muse. We like to muse on the Paranormal Concept Show.
On the Paranormal Concept Show. It gives you food for thought, right? Anyway, now we talked about different names for the black dog. We've already talked about the black shark, right?
Yep.
But even by county in the UK, they change. So in Lancashire, the black dog is called, it's got several names. Skriker, or Trash, or Shag, or Barguest, or the Bogey Beast.
Oh, the Bogey Beast.
The Bogey Beast. Yorkshire carries on with Striker, but it also has Padfoot. What does that remind you of?
Harry Potter.
Exactly.
Well, does it? I wouldn't know.
yeah. Padfoot is a name that was used in there. Love it.
That was the reference to Sirius. No, not Sirius Black.
It was.
Was it Sirius Black?
Yeah, Padfoot.
Yeah, when he changed into the dog.
He changes into a black dog, doesn't he? The Grim, they called him.
Yeah. That's right.
Yeah. Somerset is the home to the Girt dog or Great dog. Actually, that's accent on that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because think of how they, the accent in Somerset. Somerset is a Girt dog, Great dog.
Yeah.
You know, for somebody else that might sound like a Girt rather than a Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. In Devon, it's called the Yeth or the Yellhound.
Okay.
Cumbria, they call it the Capelthwaite.
The Capelthwaite.
Capelthwaite. Suffolk, the Gallytrot.
That means something totally different from where I'm from.
Go to Scotland and the Isle of Man, it's called the Morth dog or the Morthdoog. Morthdoog.
Morthdoog. Yeah.
And there are lots of other names for it as well. So wherever you go, it might be a different name, but it's all talking about a black dog, right? So you've got the Kirk Grim, the Shug Monkey. I love that one, the Shug Monkey. Hateful Thing was one, which actually the Hateful Thing came up in a book I read, which is one of my favourite books by Raymond E. Feist. They called it The Hateful Thing in regard to fairy lore. Swooning Shadow was another one. Giltrash. Utrudrugun is another one. Dip and Tripicina.
There's supposed to be a shug monkey in Rendlesham Forest. There's a legend of a shug monkey.
Which basically a shug monkey. I always thought it'd be like more monkey-y, but it's not. It's about black dog, mate.
Oh right, that's what it is.
Interesting, right?
Yeah, isn't it?
How different areas have different names for it.
Well, yeah, especially when we went to Rendlesham Forest and that guy come out with some sort of monkey type creature, didn't he?
Yeah, he spoke of some sort of small sort of creature, didn't he? That sort of lurked around the back of a car, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, that one. Yes, that man, that strange man in the him.
Yeah, that disappeared and was never seen again.
Yeah.
That was strange. Maybe that's what he'd see. He'd see that monkey thing, and I thought, "Oh, I know, that's what it is." And then he told you about that monkey thing. Yeah,
and that was seen on the Air Force Base as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's sort of seen around, and there is sort of there is a lot of sort of there is a standing legend of the shug monkey of Rendlesham Forest.
Oh.
So,
I'm glad I sat in the car with the doors locked at that point.
How freaked out would you have been though if you'd seen something? You was all by yourself in the middle of nowhere.
Oh no, that's all right. I'll be investigating it
from the car with the doors locked.
From the car, with the doors locked. Yeah, lovely.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You could have done a Blair Witch moment there in that car. You so could have done. It would have been hysterical.
I would have given you a ring and you could come back to the car. If it attacked you, I'd stay in the car. If it didn't, I'd be out investigating it.
Can you imagine him phoning us in the middle of Rendlesham Forest? Because we was out still in the forest at this point. And going, Can you imagine going, I'm seeing something. And me, Richard, and Andy would have gone, okay, well, we're going to go carry on in the opposite direction. We'll leave you to it. We ain't coming back.
Yeah, cheers for that.
Just record it on your phone. We'll take a look at the footage later.
Yeah.
We'll go back in the morning. Anyway, these kind of dogs have existed in historical references for from around about 8,000 BC, right? So dogs in general, I think, more than black dogs. I mean, they used to herd reindeer. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I mean the Celts when the Romans first come over to Britain, they were confronted with the local tribesmen, and they would have bull mastiffs.
Blimey.
Yeah, and they were a war dog.
They're, I mean, don't get me wrong, lovely dogs. We have domesticised dogs an awful lot.
Yeah, but they were specifically used on the battlefield, bull mastiffs.
They reckon that they were properly domesticated about 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what they reckon. But we have had this massively close relationship with dogs over the years. You know, even Neolithic sites, the flag fen dogs were ritually sacrificed, and they were sacrificed to actually become the spirit guardians of the community. I don't like the idea of animal sacrifice, but unfortunately it's a fact of history.
Yeah.
But that's what they did. I mean, I know, was it the Vikings used to sacrifice the horse if the rider died? The warrior died?
Oh,
possibly, yeah.
If they died, if the leader died, and they would sacrifice his horse as well.
Yeah, I mean, sacrifice is quite a complex sort of ritual if you go back and look at it, but you usually do sacrifice the most important sort of asset you have, don't you? To show your intention that you are serious. You know, that's why a lot of sort of African communities, you know, sort of like in drought-stricken areas and stuff, will sacrifice a calf, a cow, because it's very valuable to them.
Yeah. See, what I found really interesting is about the archaeology of this, and I'm not an archaeologist, but they could look at from the Mesolithic period. Yeah, they could tell when the animals were still in their wild state,
right,
and what animals had been domesticated.
I can imagine that's sort of down to diets and stuff, isn't it?
Oh, well, yeah, sort of like the breeding methods and stuff like that. I suppose you can tell a modern. Let's take something like a sort of a spaniel. You could probably tell a modern sort of spaniel from a sort of like a more ancient one, because they're with sort of bred. They're quite intensively bred to specific sort of requirements.
Yeah. I mean, in the Mesolithic period, it shows that cattle and horses were still in their wild state, whereas the sheep and dogs were domesticated.
Yeah.
So they can see the difference in the bony. That's where expertise comes in, right?
Yeah.
Now, in some lands, so like the Semitic and the Muslim lands, dogs were viewed as very unclean.
All right.
Okay. Is the unclean meaning that the dog had once been of sacred significance very remotely in time? So I don't know quite what they mean with that, but it's viewed as quite unclean. Whether or not that means it's unclean as in not clear, I don't know. But that's what they said anyway. The archaeologists, they know better than me. Right.
Yeah, I know better.
Now, we've said about black dogs being seen as seen in liminal places, and there's shape shifting, even ship, shop, 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 shop. The shape shifting scenario guide.
Well, you nearly said the word then.
I know. I tell you, I am like, it's that time of night, isn't it? My teeth start to fall out. Because the black dog has also been associated with witches and transformational forms, which again would tie in with the liminal places, those transformational areas.
Oh yeah, it's the first time I've heard them associated with witches, because there is a familiar aspect to that then.
That's it. It is like that familiar, that again, that bridge between the bad, the devil, hashtag the devil, and the person invoking that. Like, got to be witches, right?
Gotta be.
So when we talk about black dog in regard to witches, we're talking about the symbolizing of the devil and the transformation period. See, like if you go to Germany and Scandinavia, that is where that's more prevalent. That belief system is more prevalent. Okay. And actually in the Highlands as well.
Well, Scotland.
Yeah, they called him an black tyke. Black tyke. That's my attempt at Scottish accent, everybody. I'm sure I failed at that. Now, we've talked about them being guardians as well, but they are seen also as dogs of passage. So we've talked about liminal places, like passing between the realms, liminal places, on the edge of passing over to. So these dogs, these guardian hounds, are seen as dogs of passage. So they would be associated with entrances, right?
Okay.
To other worlds. And then, of course, we then link to rivers. Yeah. Because rivers were also seen as a passageway to another world.
Cool.
Okay. So you're now starting to build up a picture that is very, very dependent. The folklore of the black dog is very dependent on where it is, what culture it is. So many different things are put on it, but you can start to see where common threads are starting to come through here.
Yeah.
So like where we talk about familiars and associations with the devil, some areas in the UK will think like that, but that's originated from Germany. That's where they really think that. So you've got these threads of different cultures coming through on that one. Now, these liminal, but it's always liminal places though. Whenever I looked at this, even with whatever culture I looked at, it was always a liminal place linked to that. Because the ones in churchyards are called grims. This is where grim comes in. This is the churchyard, the church grim.
Right.
Okay. Now and this is because of the underworld link as well. Because obviously places of death and then the person passing into the underworld.
Okay.
Or the other world.
The other world.
Whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So again, that's a liminal place. Now, the association of black dogs with death rituals, which when you bury a person, there's always a death ritual. We do a cremation or a burial, don't we, in the UK? It's very Christian-based or Catholic-based kind of belief system going on there. But they have this link with the black dogs in Persia, Tibet, and India. And in some certain places, it's still observed. They still do it. Okay, very prominent in Celtic religious practice, the black dog. Okay, incredibly linked with that one as well. And basically, it's the way I saw it was almost like a unification of mythologies from cultures, cross cultures. It's like you could link, like you say, you've got this link between the cultures and stuff. It's incredibly interesting when you get down and dirty with it, quite frankly. But there's lots of other things in mythology as well, legends surrounding this more than anything else. Now, like in regards to association with death, we talked about the banshee, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. in Wales, the banshee or the black dog version of that is called the Quim and Wan, or the Gum. Gosh, I do apologise, Wales. I really do. In
Don't
Greek,
worry, I bet they're having a right laugh over that.
I do hope that people get some joy out of my trouble of pronunciations.
I know I do.
But this links into, if you think about, if I said to you Cerberus,
Yep.
it kind of, you've got the Greek link there,
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
and that's linked with death and the passing through into the underworld,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Unbelievable. It kept jumping around, and it was really hard to sort of like get a flow, should I say, to this, because it there were so many links with other things that you had to pull in at various times that it feels very jumpy around, but it all kind of you kind of see it. I mean, they call them hellhounds, right? Hell, underworld, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're found in the Greek, Celtic, Roman, German, Indian, Armenian, and Iranian mythology. That's
Okay.
that's a lot more widespread than I initially thought when I started.
Quite prolific, then, isn't it?
Yeah. And then the link then becomes linked to goddesses, gods and goddesses.
Yeah.
So Epona, the Celtic horse goddess, is Epona. She was accompanied by dogs.
Okay.
Now, her sort of like another incarnation, shall we say, of Epona was the German and Dutch goddess of Nehelenia.
Okay, again, that's got hell in it.
Yeah. So we've got this link. And then in Rome, jump over to Rome, we've got another liminal place of birthing coming through into the physical from somewhere else. It was called Janita Mana.
Okay.
So you've got black dogs linked with these,
all over.
Yeah. And again, all of these transitional phases, all of these liminal places. Yeah, liminal places tends to be a location. Transitional phases would be a person.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got that. Now, you could find examples of these black dog. We're going to just use the generic term of black dog from the Near East to Greece and as far as the New World. So around 3000 BC, the goddess Artemis.
Yeah.
Artemis.
Yeah, we know Artemis, right?
Mm-hmm.
She was seen as a terrible mother, as in like a scary mum, as well as a bear mother. So she's got a duality of nature going on there. And again, you see a duality with things a lot. So she's got this virgin mother kind of scenario and cruel huntress.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Linked to the black dog. Because she would run with the black dog.
Yeah.
Okay. And Diana, not Princess Diana, everybody, but the huntress Diana. She was presiding over births. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, she's known by a title, Opener of the Womb.
All right.
Right. That's another title she has, again, linked with black dogs. Now, Hecate. We know Hecate?
Yeah, he's the owner of the three-headed Cerberus.
Correct.
Yeah.
Diana is linked to Artemis and the hunting dogs there. Now, Hecate is an interesting one in her own right. A lot of people are quite scared of Hecate. She's one of those characters, isn't she? She's the goddess of death. Okay, but she has, again, this duality as the protectress of childbirth. Okay. So she's got this duality going on. And she's also known as Artemis, by the way. So you talk Artemis, and generally people are talking about Hecate, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's sort of like the same name for the different, same goddess, different name.
Yeah.
She loved her dogs, was appeased by dogs. So basically, You want to keep her happy, you have a dog, basically. And she owned Cerberus, the guardian with the 3 heads. That was her pet.
Cool.
Love it. But this comes from the goddess herself used to be portrayed with 3 heads.
See, was the Cerberus, was that his real name, or was it just called Fluffy?
Fluffy. We'll go with Fluffy.
Yeah, we'll go with Fluffy.
We'll go with Fluffy. Now, the 3 heads is the mother maiden crone.
Okay.
Okay, when we talk about that in witchcraft, that's who we're referring to in that way. And we talk about it in a broader aspect nowadays of the transitional phases you go through as a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, mother maiden crone. Maiden mother crone, sorry. That order.
Yeah.
And that's why you get the 3 heads. So we get the triple moon, you know, like you see that portrayed quite a lot, the 3 moons linked. Yeah, that's another symbol for her. All of those things link in. Now, that is to do with her as a goddess and what she represented. Transitional phases.
Yeah.
And coming into guarding the underworld with Cerberus, her doggy.
Oh.
Now, all of that mythology and that folklore links to the dog star called Sirius.
Good old Sirius. Well, I should imagine we'd be coming into an Egyptian connection soon.
Maybe we will. Maybe we won't. We shall
Well,
have
yeah,
to see.
they did have some reference to one of their gods, didn't they, with the dog head?
If you actually look, well, we'll get to that in a moment. But if you actually look at Sirius, the dog star, the spirituality and the links of that, actually, you know what? We need to do a show on that because that is incredible. The more I've looked at various aspects, following threads, it's shocking how often that particular star comes up.
Yeah, it's one of the prominent stars, isn't it, out there?
Yeah, it's really, really weird on that one. I just couldn't believe it. That's even linked into the Kabbalah, which is not one of the main planets that you would necessarily associate with things like that. It's just weird. It's just weird how things pop up in the least unexpected places. We talk about what do we talk about? We talk about not. Is it coincidence? No. What's that other word? Synchronicity.
Yeah, synchronicities.
And when you do research and you follow a thread and then the same thing keeps popping up time and time again, it's weird. That one is a weird one. All I can say on that one. I'll have to do some work on that, I think. Hades. If I said to you Hades, yeah, who was the god of the underworld in Greece. Yeah. Cerberus, pet of Artemis, Hecate.
Also known as Fluffy.
Now, he allegedly, I say allegedly, he originally would have had 50 heads. Okay, but they cut it down to 3.
Got a bit, so I bet they got a bit heavy.
Yeah.
Well,
must have been a right pain to draw that one. Yeah, trying to draw it. And some artist goes, no, we'll just leave it at 3.
We'll just have the 3,
We'll just leave it with 3. He's linked to Hecate. She's got 3 heads. That'll do me.
They'll know what we're talking about.
Exactly. And that's why he ends up with 3 heads, because of that link to Hecate. Okay. Oh, dear. All good fun, right?
Yeah, so far so good.
Yeah. Now, a trivium, found this out. A trivium is in classical times, was where 3 roads met, basically, a crossroads, right?
Right.
And I thought that was interesting, just out of that, just a trivium.
Right.
Now,
triviums
are another feature of Hecate. She was supposed to hover, lovely, just hovering around this particular crossroads on this particular day. And this is where the shape-shifting comes in, because they said it was her in the shape of a hound. You can see how these threads start tying together now, can't you?
Yeah.
Love it. Now, of course, the gallows and gibbets were generally at a crossroads, right?
More often than not, yeah.
Which is why we then get the Black Dog Association with hanging around places where there used to be gibbets and gallows.
Mm-hmm.
Not just that, but generally they were. Do you remember we talked about when we did the gallows show?
Yeah.
Yeah. We were talking about what it looked like.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone imagines the platform with the framework and then hanging from that, yeah?
Yeah.
And it generally wasn't like that. It wasn't as good as that. It was a cart that would go up and they would have like a central thing and hang either side.
Mm-hmm.
Cross.
Yeah.
And that tends to be now where the crossroads tend to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, it all ties together. It all ties together, boys. Interesting. Now, burials of suicides weren't ever buried in churchyards. They were buried outside. Because to commit suicide was against the law of God, right?
Yeah, it's a sin, isn't it?
It was classed as a sin. So they were buried outside. And there were a huge amount of visions of these black dogs around those areas as well. So not only do you have it inside the churchyard, called a grim, you also have them outside as well. Interesting, right?
It is, definitely, yeah.
Right, let's pop over to Egypt because you guys are chomping at the bit on Egypt. The god Anubis was the dog-headed god,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
See, I knew there was
god.
one.
Yeah, originally he was known as the Ampu, or earlier names was Imiut, which means he who is skin or placenta.
Right.
Are you not seeing the link there?
Well, he is skin for birth.
That's where placenta is, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
So again, you've got that liminus thing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, birth. Yeah, from one to the other. Yeah.
Yeah, it's referring to that transitional period from baby in the unborn child, baby in womb, to being born.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he is also, Anubis is also referred to as the opener of paths.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that opening, that going forward across a pathway, opening, going into a different realm type thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting, right? Now, when we refer to his other name, one of his other names is Impu. Yeah. One of those refers to a young dog and the other to a young child. So you've got a duality in nature relating to life and death.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so again, very similar when you start thinking about what we've just talked about in regard to Hecate and Artemis, and then we come in and we're a totally different culture now. We're in Egypt.
Mm.
And yet we've got very, very similar themes coming through. This duality of nature, this life and death link. We've got this transitional phases coming through. And also get this one, if this is send a little shiver down your spine, Anubis is ancient Egyptian association with the dog star Sirius.
Yeah. That's what we want to hear.
Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah? Now, he was actually portrayed more as a jackal
Right.
or a wolf. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in ancient Greek mythology, the god Apollo,
Mm-hmm.
okay, his many temples, we've talked about this before. There was even a sect we talked about this in Werewolves. Do you remember? There was a tribe thing that used to wear wolf skin and have cloven hooves. They would wear those on their feet to take on the ferocity of the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was to do with Apollo. The term lycogenes, which means born of the wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now this is going back to protectors and guardians of the underworld and the immemorial. Yeah, so this all goes back to that transitional phase. They're going to help you transition from life to death in battle, basically. And that's kind of where that comes from. Every single culture I looked at, there was something from ancient times linking into a dog mythology.
Yeah, her tradition of the dog. Yeah.
Yeah, going through, and it all comes through from that. Take a breather, because that was quite intense. We're going to look at some nice, more fluffier stuff, bit more tales, I think. We're going to have a look at some stories linked to the black dog right after this. Join us right after the break.
Hello, Harry Price here. If there's nothing me and my friends enjoy more here on the other side, it is to sit back and relax and listen to the Paranormal Concept Show, right here on the PAUK Radio Network. Broadcasting a plethora of interesting and informative content for all your paranormal needs. Find them across social media to keep up to date with forthcoming shows and all their other adventures. Hello, is there anybody there?
And welcome back to the Paranormal Concept Show, exclusive to the Paranormal UK Radio Network. Now, before the break, we were looking more into the mythology and folklore of the black dog mythology. I said that word a lot tonight. I'm going to just keep popping it in inappropriate, grammatically incorrect times. And we're sort of looking at an overview, really, across the cultures and different places and how it all links together, really. But in the second half of the show, we're going to go down a little bit more into some actual stories, right? Got to have stories.
That's what we want. We've got to have the stories. This is what we want.
This is what we want, right? The fun bit. Now, do you remember when we did the show on Newgate Prison, guys?
Yep.
Great show, that one, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
It was,
one of our first ever shows on the network, wasn't it?
It was, which can be found if you go to our Spreaker page, Paranormal Concept, you can find the back catalogue of our shows, and Newgate Prison is down there, as well as the Gallows and Gibbets show, or the Gallows show.
You can do it on the website as well.
Yes, and on the website too. So go check those shows out, because those are pretty damn good, I would say. Now, Newgate Prison, as you know, guys, was one of the most notorious prisons in London.
Yep.
Now, it evolved from a gatehouse into the prison that we sort of like have a vision of now. And it got burnt down and rebuilt and burnt down and rebuilt. And it was one of the most horrific prisons going. It was.
Don't tell me it was a dog that did it.
It wasn't. It wasn't the dog. It was badly ventilated, overcrowded, filthy. The borders were abusive. Disgusting, right? And one of the stories is that the lice were so prevalent in the prison that you could hear them crunch under your feet.
I thought you were going to say the lice are so big they're like dogs.
Wow. Not quite. Now, we did the show on Newgate, but it did have a bar. So if you could afford it as a prisoner, because you had to pay for everything.
Yes.
In prison. That was the laugh of it. It was a debtor's prison, even. So you go in there for being in debt, yet if you had the money, you could get some level of comfort. And one of those comforts was, having a drink at the bar, believe it or not. Now, it was a very bad smell. It stunk, right? So it was pretty horrible. It's where the old Bailey is now.
Yep, I went past that the other day, actually.
That's it. And do you remember
it's still there?
Yep, exactly. Right, now, here's one such story of the Black Dog legend. The story goes that in the reign of Henry III, a scholar was accused of sorcery and was sent to Newgate to await trial. Now, his imprisonment coincided with a famine, that was going across England at the time. So in Newgate, which, you know, food wasn't exactly a luxury. Yeah, it was a luxury, sorry, not a necessity. It was, if you could afford it, you got it.
Yeah.
And in a time of famine, there weren't a lot to get. So some of the inmates resorted to cannibalism.
Nice.
Lovely. So this weedy scholar guy was kind of like prime meat for the guys because he couldn't defend himself. So they killed him and ate him, basically.
Right.
Shortly after that, prisoners began reporting that they were seeing the spectre of a huge black dog.
Okay.
And the convicts or the prisoners were convinced that it was the sorcerer coming back to take revenge on those who had actually eaten him.
Right.
Well, that makes sense, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that gives a whole new sort of meaning to indigestion after eating something.
And basically the dog did that. It began to hunt down and consume those who were responsible for the crime.
Oh, right. Well, there you go.
Now-
Serves them right.
Yeah, right. But the remaining prisoners scoffed. The sorcerer was so terrified that they planned to break out of the jail, and they managed to escape by murdering some guards. I mean, it's Newgate after all, you know.
Yeah.
They got free of Newgate, but they weren't free of the dog, everybody. No, no, no.
Ooh, depends where they went, I suppose, doesn't it?
Yeah, one by one, the black dog sought them out, killed them, and ate them. Dun, 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 kind of moment, right? Now,
yeah, it's just like a 1200 version of that program where death kills everybody. You know, on the aeroplane.
Oh,
Lost.
no. Oh, it's had so many reboots. It's untrue. Sequels. What's it called?
I can't remember.
Oh, have a quick Google. It's one of the main. Tip of the tongue. Can't think of it. Anyway, the first written evidence for this story appeared in a publication dated in 1596 and was entitled "The Discovery of a London Monster Called the Black Dog of Newgate, profitable for all readers to take heed by." They think the legend is actually older than this, and the author of the pamphlet, that's the 1596 one, is a guy called Luke Hutton. He was an inmate of Newgate who claimed a stranger, a poor thin gut fella, had once narrated the tale to him in a black dog public house. So you
Final
can see
Destination.
that's the one.
Final
That's the one.
Destination.
Yes, thank you. Well done.
Yeah.
So that's where they think that this is, right? He'd been told the tale in a black dog public house. Right, the stranger tells Hutton the legend is untrue, saying that the only black dog in Newgate is a great black stone standing in the dungeon called Limbo. And that's the place where the condemned prisoners are put after their judgment. And some of the felons actually were killed upon that stone.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right, so you can see how the story has come about. I can imagine two old codgers sitting in a pub, you know, exchanging life stories. Oh, I was once in Newgate. Oh, have you heard about the town of Newgate? They're in the Black Dog pub, right? So that's where the Black Dog comes in. You can see where they, you know, this story comes up. I've worked in pubs many years, and I've heard many tales like this over the years, where the drink talks, basically. But they reckon that Hutton appeared to have written the pamphlet as a morality tale to draw attention to how bad the prison was at the time and how horrible the inmates were. And it being as he lived that, he was actually a prisoner there. He's speaking from experience as well. So he's written this tale to sort of like highlight how bad everything was. Because he also dedicated the booklet to the Lord Chief Justice John Popham. And they think that it was that helped secure his release from the prison, as well as highlight the conditions within it.
Cool.
However, the black dog has been sighted in and around the Newgate area over the centuries. It was reported to have been seen on evenings before the execution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, within the prison itself, there was an alleyway called Dead Man's Walk. Do you remember we talked about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, that's the walk they would do before they were like hung. And on the walls, there was supposed to be graffiti etched on the walls, and underneath the pathway, they were buried under there.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Dead Man's Walk was demolished with the rest of the prison in 1904. It runs close to Amon Court, which is attached to St Paul's Cathedral, containing the canons' houses. That part there,
Mm-hmm.
and part of the Amon Court is bounded by what was once a wall of Newgate.
All right.
Okay, so that's where this link comes through, because they say that Amon Court is said to be haunted by the Newgate's black dog. Having said that, this air quote black dog, it appears as a shapeless black form. It just glides around the court and streets and slithers across the top of the remaining wall of the prison and stuff like that. But what is distinctive is the smell.
Oh, it comes with a smell, does it?
It comes with a very distinct, disgusting smell.
Look like wet dog.
Yeah. I don't know. Just said a disgusting smell.
Mm.
But it is also said to be accompanied by dragging footsteps. And they say that that's the prisoners trudging to their deaths.
Ooh.
Nice one, huh?
Yeah, isn't it?
So I don't think, although we have reports now of this shadowy mass around that area, and that's sort of like where it's continued, I would say, the black dog of Newgate. I think it started as a morality tale.
Yeah.
And the stone as well, that it is quite a good, if it's a black stone, isn't it? It's horrible. Black dog death, name the stone after that kind of scenario. So let's go up to Yorkshire and northeast of England, the Barguest or Bargest. It heralds death.
That's right.
If it lays across your threshold of your house, it is a sign you will soon die.
Oh dear.
Okay, so if a person of local importance is about to die, the Barguest will appear. All the other dogs, all the other dogs in the neighbourhood will fall in behind it, as they do, kind of like a funeral procession.
Right.
Barking and howling as they go. And while the Barguest is leading this lovely dog procession, shall we say, if you get in the way of that, you're going to be gouged with its claws and leave you with wounds that will never heal.
So leave well alone.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, William Henderson wrote a book called Notes on the Folklore of the Northern Counties of England and the Borders in 1879.
Nice short title then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, they love that. We love a long title in the UK.
They always like their long titles back then.
Now, he says that his informant, so he's gone around collecting these stories, was a Yorkshire gentleman, lately deceased, but he says that he remembered the terror he experienced when, as a child, he beheld this procession before the death of a certain Squire Wade of New Grange. So Henderson says that he's actually spoken to somebody who's witnessed this.
Right.
But the guy's dead now, so he can't check.
Yeah, makes sense.
Now, a Barguest is said to haunt Troller's Gill, which is a limestone gorge southeast of Grassington in the Yorkshire Dales. There is a ballad. I'm not going to sing it. You'll be glad to know. That is The Legend of Troller's Gill. That's recorded in William Hone's Everyday Book, 1830. And basically tells of a man who clambered up to the horrid gill of the limestone hill to summon the Barguest with ritual magic. and the man's body was found with uncanny mole marks on its breast.
Okay.
Another rumour about the bar guest was it was supposed to prowl around a wasteland called Oxwells between Reckhorn and Headingley Hill near Leeds.
All right.
Okay? Don't go around there at night.
Yeah.
Now, the term bar guest comes from mountain ghost. That's what I think the name means.
Okay.
All right. So there's a bit of a tradition there.
hmm It's actually said Berggeist, like iceberg geist.
Yeah,
mountain
Burgeist.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where they reckon that the names come from. Or it could come from guest, as in town ghost.
Right.
So it could be that both are right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then it's translated to, it's evolved, should I say, to barge guest, which is both countryside and city. It's just like a general name.
Ooh.
Yeah, Yorkshire, York City, even.
Yeah, we've been there.
Yeah, beautiful place, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good place, York. Do like it there.
We've got a bar guest that haunts York.
We'll
Yeah.
have to go up and see it.
Going, through the winding, narrow alleyways known as Snickleways. Yeah, we know
Straight to
them.
the Golden Fleece, where you can have a bit of dinner.
No, not quite, but it does go along those kind of lines. Snickleways, with his massive jaws and yellow fangs, the dog devours people that see it.
Yeah.
The amount of tourists that are in York, there might well have been a few that have gone missing over the years. Who knows?
I wonder if they taste different.
What, tourists?
Yeah. Have like, I don't know, if an Irishman had like the Irish feel to it and American. I don't know. We'd have to ask one of these black dogs that have tried them.
That's a weird thought.
Mm.
Oh, I have lots of weird thoughts. Don't worry about that.
The bar guest is also rumoured to roam Whitby, Whitby being famed for Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, it's where he made landfall, wasn't it? Whitby
It
Bay.
was. And in the novel, the Count Dracula transforms into a black dog.
All right.
Right, where they think that's where the bar guest legends have come from. The inspiration has come from Dracula.
Yeah.
Okay, in Whitby. And the moors around Whitby as well. And if you're unlucky enough to hear its chilling howl at night, it means that death is coming soon. So you won't live till morning, folks.
So if you're going to go to the moors, take some earplugs.
Yeah,
Yeah, just in
so you
case.
don't hear it howling.
Exactly. And then you'll
Honestly,
be
if
all
we're
right.
ever up that way and we do hear that, we're going to absolutely cack our pants now, aren't we?
No, because I'd just go, what was that? I don't know. I can't hear it.
nothing. I didn't hear nothing. We'll all be going, we didn't hear nothing. Didn't hear nothing.
No.
Did you hear that? No, I didn't hear it.
No. Well, I used to be a werewolf, but I'm all right now.
In Northumberland and County Durham, the bar guest can appear as a type of household elf. Okay? The bar guest that lived close to Darlington could manifest as a headless man who vanished in a flash of flame.
Okay.
A headless woman, a white cat, and even a rabbit.
All right, so quite multitasking. He can get up to.
Shape-shifting. It can also make itself invisible, apparently.
Well,
Now, they reckon that this is the ability is reflected in the origins of the name Bargeist, bear ghost. Although
I see.
others maintain that it refers to the links with death, that Bargeist comes from Bahar guest, meaning ghost of the funeral buyer. Jeepers. These are not
interesting
these.
bear ghost. I mean, bear baiting was very popular here in England
Yeah.
many years ago, and the size of a bear
Mhm.
is, and about the size of a small calf. Yeah, you can You see, perhaps the crossover there.
Yeah. Now, some say that the Bargeist is actually accompanied by the sound of rattling chains and the beast can't cross running water. Why is that? I think, though, with that one, is we know that dogs can follow scent, but if you cross water, they lose the scent, right?
Yeah.
I think that's just where that is.
Yeah.
Wasn't it a myth as well that vampires couldn't cross water?
Well, vampires can't cross running water,
Yeah.
can they?
No, I don't think they could they? So it might be a reference to that. Going back to the Bram Stoker bit.
So is the sea not running water then?
No.
Even though it flows?
It has
moves.
ties. Yeah.
I don't know.
Running with the tide, you call it, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
It's static, isn't it? It stays still.
Well, no.
It's only tidal, isn't it?
Yeah, but it runs, doesn't it? The tide runs. It runs in or it runs out.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know,
dunno.
but there is a sort of, it is part of the vampire mythology that they can't cross running water.
No, but then I suppose they obviously can, because we've seen it time and time.
Mhm.
Well, I say we see it in media that they can cross bodies of water,
Mm-hmm.
because Bram Stoker came, and Dracula even, sorry, not Bram. Dracula came from Transylvania, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm.
So,
To Whitby. And then
and I
even
sort
in
of,
Interview with a Vampire, they crossed the water
mm,
from New Orleans to France.
yeah. Oh well.
And they do it in their coffin. And
Yeah,
they have the
Yeah, I
soil
think
they have the soil of their land, don't they, in their coffin?
yeah, I
that
think
might
if
be
they're
why
all,
then.
I
Which
think if they're all,
goes
they
which
transport them by day and then sort of settle, then he comes out at night, don't they?
what's that got
Oh
to do with
well.
water?
Yeah, he can probably be transported whilst and during the day across running water and stuff because he's not actually active. But when they stop for the night,
Yeah, maybe when they're like out and
yeah, out,
about, they can't cross water,
they
but
can't.
in their, like, yeah, maybe
Dormant
that's what it
state.
is. Dormant
Yeah,
state. Yeah, they can, I
I
suppose.
suppose, yeah, but when they're in the dormant state, someone's taking them across water. They're not actually doing it themselves.
Mm.
So all you got to do is just put a stamp on them and off they go.
Yeah, if they're chasing you and you cross water, they can't follow you.
yeah,
Yeah,
Whereas if they had their coffin and that and someone took them, then maybe they could.
yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway,
Anyway, yeah.
the black dog can't.
yeah.
The
Because
Guy
of that.
Trash is a black dog that lingers by the lonely moorland and marsh, roads, forest paths, and high passes of northern England. This dog in particular likes to lead travellers astray. It can be helpful, can lead you back to safe tracks, or not.
I suppose it just depends on what mood he's in that day.
It is. He's also, Guy Trash is also a shapeshifter. He can appear as a crane, a mule, or a horse. Now, when he's in his horse form, he is known as a shagfoal.
Right.
Yeah, a phantom horse, mule, or donkey with burning eyes. It's the burning eyes you've got to watch out for, I think, in this one, to know whether it's a black dog in a different form. Now, in the equine form, he is utterly wicked.
Ooh.
Utterly, utterly wicked, I say. And they think that the Guy Trash could partly be a personification of the dangers, basically, of the unlit roads, highwaymen, unreliable maps, methods of transport. Basically, don't leave the pathway, not because of any other reason, but it's dangerous out there.
Yeah.
Naturally dangerous.
Yeah, you can probably, that's a way of warning people just to stay on track. Don't stray too far because you'll probably get lost.
Yeah, basically, or fall down a hill, or get highwaymen are out there as well and stuff like that. Now, according to the English Dialect Dictionary of 1898 to 1905, the guy trash could adopt the guise of an evil cow whose appearance was formerly believed in as a sign of death. Cows aren't evil.
Yeah, imagine an evil cow. I'm trying to sort of picture one. I mean, yeah.
Oh, I don't know. A bull can be quite evil looking.
Yeah.
I mean, I know they are, and they're cows. They're the male cow. They're really evil. I've come across a bull before now in a field.
Right.
Looked ever so. It was miles away. Got closer and closer as we tried to cross this field. Then we ran for it. Never crossed a gate so quick in my life, I tell you. Anyway, the most famous mention of the guy trash is in print. Think of Charlotte Bronte's Jane Eyre.
Oh, right. He's in that, is he?
He is, apparently. Just before Jane's first meeting with Mr. Rochester. Do you remember the lonely country
Oh,
lane?
yes.
Yep, she's reminded of the spooky tale she's heard of a black dog. And yes, I have the quote if you want me to.
Yeah, okay.
As this horse approached and as I waited for it to appear through the dusk, I remembered certain of Bessie's tales wherein figured a north of England spirit called a guy trash, which in the form of a horse, mule or large dog haunted solitary ways and sometimes came upon belated travellers. As this horse was now coming upon me, it was very near but not yet in sight, when in addition to the tramp tramp, I heard a rush under the hedge, and close down by the hazel stems glided a great dog, whose black and white colour made him a distinct object against the trees. It was exactly one form of Bessie's guy trash, a lion-like creature with long hair and a huge head, with strange, pretercanine eyes. The horse followed, a tall steed, and on its back a rider. The man, the human being, broke the spell at once. Nothing ever rode the guy trash. It was always alone.
Yeah.
Oh, such a romantic book. But basically, it was Mr. Rochester on his horse with his dog Pilot.
Yes, that's one of her better books. I do like Mr. Rochester.
Mr.
Jane
Arrogance
Eyre.
himself.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they made a good movie of it. I think the last time they made a movie of it, and it was a few years ago now, but yeah, it was a good film.
But what she did in that, in that book is that's the first time you meet Mr. Rochester. And his character, he's haunted as a character from his past, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's a fluid character as well. You can't quite make him out. So like in company, he's one. When he's alone with her, he's something else.
Yeah.
He's a very fluid character. He's a shape-shifting kind of character.
Well, I suppose, yeah.
And he's quite illusional. His whole being is illusional. And that's what makes him so compelling, actually, as a character.
Always left wondering with Mr. Rochester, aren't you?
Yeah, you are with that. His motivations, you're never quite sure. Anyway, now in Victorian culture, servants were often assigned the function of transmitters of folklore. So it was the servants and those, the farmers and the servants, and that crossover between the country and the classes, where the middle ground is the servants, right? And that is where word of mouth comes in. So they're going and hearing stories at the marketplace and in the, that kind of area, and bring it into the kitchens, and then therefore into the maids, who would then tell their wards and stuff like that. So it all becomes that folklore passing on verbally, that verbal folklore. And that's how come it gets into books like Charlotte Bronte's work and stuff like that. It's it takes on a life of its own almost. Like a little story. And when we look at the Newgate story, you've got the two old men in the pub, or the two men, should I say, telling tales to each other in the pub. To Jane Eyre you know, going into a different class completely. You can see how it's flooding through. These tales and folklore flood through and evolve and change, and different mythologies come off the back of that. Legends come off the back of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Charlotte wasn't the only one who was a writer in the Bronte family, was she? You had Branwell Bronte. She wrote Thurston's of Darkball, and that is actually based around the real story of Pondon Hall. Now, that they reckon that was Emily Bronte's inspiration for Wuthering Heights.
Yeah, I thought I'd heard it before. Yeah.
That features a guy trash.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And it talks about the shape-shifting capabilities of the guy trash in that book.
All right.
As well. Now, they say that in the book itself, it says it was an old dwarfish and hideous man, sometimes seen without a head, and could be seen as a calf and even a flaming barrel.
All right.
Now, that was actually based on an apparition that people claimed to have seen around the moors around Harworth.
Okay.
Mm.
So they're taking these folklores and stories that they're hearing as inspiration and incorporating them within their novels.
Yeah. I think a lot of people do that anyway, don't they, for some of their inspiration.
Well, when you think about, you know, we mentioned Harry Potter at the beginning of this with Fluffy, didn't we? I mean, we did a whole show on just a smattering of some of the influences that J.K. Rowling took and incorporated into the Harry Potter books.
Absolutely.
Just a touch. We just touched on that. The more you read those books and the intricacies of folklore that she easily incorporated as a world of Harry Potter is incredible.
Yeah.
It shows a knowledge way beyond just somebody sitting down writing a book.
Yeah.
She had the knowledge there, and she's pulled that knowledge from all these places, you know, all these things that she's come across throughout her life, and some quite rare resources as well in that. Fantastic piece of work just from that perspective. But how much folklore is out? Again, it's another way of passing down that tale, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, the Grim is forever going to be known as Sirius Black.
Yeah.
Padfoot. You know what I mean? The black dog. Always forever now.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We can't go much further without talking about the church, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The Blythe Burr Church. Now, this is in Suffolk, and this
yeah.
is the one where during a tremendous storm, lots of rain and lightning and cracks of thunder, and it was a really bad storm. Like, we don't get them very often now, but this was a big one. The church was being rocked by this storm, and the service was actually taking place while this was going on. They say a dog burst in, sprinted up the aisle, killed a man and a boy, badly burned a man's hand, was blasting other congregants, brought the church steeple crashing down through the roof. And as he left the church, he left burn marks and incisions from his talons on the door. We have actually shared a photograph of that particular door, Will, with
the door with the burns.
with the burns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great story, this one, because the demon dog, then heads over to St Mary's Church in Bungay, and the account of this was written in a pamphlet called A Strange and Terrible Wonder in 1577 by a guy called Abraham Fleming, and he says the black dog was soon running all along down the body of the church with great swiftness and incredible haste. The dog passed between two people as they were kneeling, obviously praying, and wrung their necks.
Oh, right.
In one instance. And they died. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got two different churches, this black dog causing hell, basically, in both of them, and leaving scorch marks on the door.
Yep, apparently so.
In Blytheburg and Bungay, this is. Now, Bad storm. People at the time, if there was some sort of major occurrence, they would go to the church. It was a place of solace and comfort and safety.
Yep.
Yeah, safety. So I can understand in a massively big storm like this, people would have gone to the church to pray for deliverance out of this bad storm. So that part of it, I think, is completely true. The church spire only has to be hit by lightning for that to topple.
Yeah, or strong gusts of wind would even do it, if it was, and if it was an exceptionally strong tempest that has blighted that part, yeah.
And who knows, maybe heart attacks, maybe a couple of people did actually die through stress of the worry and trauma of living through this particular storm. Who knows, right? The burn marks on the church doors, they call, from the talons of the dog. They now actually think it's probably candles that have made the marks on the door.
Yeah.
Tapers, I think they call them, rather than candles, don't they? Rather than that. But what a great story.
Oh yes, it is the sort of go-to story. You sort of open any book on the Black Shuck, particularly of East Anglia, that story will be in it.
Yeah, it's one we quite like.
Yeah, we do like that one.
We like that one.
Yeah.
Partly because I think you can sort of like understand rationally how those stories come about as well. I think that's part of that one. Now, in Highways and Byways of East Anglia, 1901, W.A. Dutt describes Old Shuck as a being who takes the form of a huge black dog and prowls along dark lanes and lonesome field footpaths where, although his howling makes the hearer's blood run cold, his footfalls make no sound.
Oh dear.
But he says that he has only one eye, that he's cycloptic.
Oh, right.
Yeah, just one eye, middle of his head. Shining, fiery, scary.
Right.
And encountering it will bring you the worst of luck. And again, we get this warning of death, that if you see it, be warned, you're going to die before the year is out. So shut your eyes and close your ears.
Yeah.
Okay? But, as I said, we've talked about various things of guardians. Nice ones, right?
Yeah.
So, where do we go next? The poet Martin Newell, he was doing research for his epic poem, Black Shuck, the Ghost Dog of Eastern England, and was going around talking to the East Anglian locals. Now, a lot of people still believe the legends and claim to have seen the Black Shuck. One Norfolk shopkeeper said, "Be careful if you're writing about that."
All right.
And another lady that Newell spoke to said that she had actually seen the Black Shuck near Cromer in the 1950s when she was coming home from a dance. And a man told him he'd spotted the dog whilst crossing the marshes near Felixstowe.
Mm.
There was also a newspaper article from the 1930s, a midwife. Now, back in the day, they used to go around on bicycles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Visit, they'd come to you. You wouldn't go to the hospital. The midwife or the nursey woman.
Yeah.
What was her name?
I don't know. It's midwife.
No,
I
there's
just know
another
them as
one.
midwives.
Nurse. It was a nurse type person that used to go around. Anyway, she was cycling around on a winter's night near Tolshan, Darcy, and she had been followed by the old shuck. And no matter how far she pedalled, the dog kept up with her.
That's only just down the road from me, Tolshan, Darcy.
Yeah.
I usually, that's one of the drives I take. I go through Tolshan, Darcy.
Oh,
be careful with the dogs.
Be careful of the dog.
Maybe you should go driving around late at night and see what you come across.
Yeah, I have to.
Ah, right.
Cool.
English
You're
poet.
going to do that tonight.
Saturday night. That's our Saturday night sorted, guys.
Yeah.
English poet and topographer George Walden recorded a legend from Peel Castle, which is on the Isle of Man. This was once haunted by a moody do, a moody do, a moody do.
Moody do. Yeah.
That basically means black dog in the Manx language. And he basically looked like a giant, shaggy-haired spaniel.
Oh,
Sounds
Right.
quite funny.
yeah.
But if you come into contact with this entity, you soon realise that it's not comedic at all, that it is sinister and otherworldly.
Ooh.
And the Moody Doo has been seen in every room in the castle. During the reign of Charles II, it actually began to frequent the guard chamber. And as soon as the guards lit the candles in the evening, the black dog would come padding along a certain corridor and into the room. It would lay down in front of the fire before all of the soldiers.
Oh,
Okay.
right.
Right? Then daybreak, Moody Doo would get up, off it go.
Sure, it just wasn't their dog.
Yeah, sure it wasn't the castle dog.
I'm just telling you what they told
Well,
me.
yeah, it sounds like it was just, the dog.
I'm just
It's the sort of thing
repeating.
dogs do, isn't it? They think,
Oh yeah,
It's Charles II's dog.
yeah.
Yeah.
The corridor.
Well, yeah, it is. It's Moddy Doo, isn't it?
Well, all I'm saying, it sounds a bit like
just
Scooby Doo to me.
I'd say it's just an ancestor of Scooby Doo.
I mean, well, put it this way: the
That was
guard,
his great grandfather, Moddy Doo.
Yeah.
the corridor connects the guards' room with the captain of the guards' quarters. The soldier had to walk along it to return the castle keys at the end of the night. So when when this dog thing started, they would never do it alone. They would always do it with twos.
Right.
But let's be honest, guards have a habit of drinking ale and telling stories to make their night shift pass a little bit more quickly. Now, they reckon, though, that once the black dog started doing this, they didn't do that anymore.
Right.
So it's good.
Yeah. They ended up ignoring the apparition and sort of like just let it get on with it. Don't talk about it. Like, it's there. We're just sober as a judge. We're still seeing it. Oh my God. It's not good. So they just ignored it anyway.
Yeah.
One soldier, however, became too relaxed around the spaniel, this strange Moody Doo. He got drunk and boasted loudly that he'd be the one who'd take the keys to the captain in the morning. And he'd do it by himself. He wasn't scared of the dog, right?
No, what should he? He's had a little.
It's a Moody Doo, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It wasn't even his turn.
All right.
To do it, so he got all brave, all like supped up, and was like giving it the large un.
Yeah.
His mates did sort of like try and talk him out of it, but he wasn't having none of it. And daybreak happens. He took the keys, off he strode, all full of bravado and The Moody Doo got up, followed him, and then the most intense screams and wails came from the passage.
Okay.
His mates, soldiers, wanted to go and help him, but they were all too scared. And then they heard someone stagger back into their room. The door swung open. Their colleague tumbled in, his face utterly white and contorted with terror, and his eyes were bulging with fear. Couldn't tell what he'd seen or what he'd endured, but he got ill and he soon died.
And soon succumbed to the fright.
After that, no one ever saw the Moody Doo again in Peel Castle. Oh,
Maybe he killed him.
who knows? Whatever. Maybe the Moody Doo was just waiting for some stupid person to be overly brave, shall we say?
Yeah.
Right. What we're looking at now. Well, let's have a look at Yeth Hounds.
Yeth Hounds.
So we're going all the way down to Devon.
Okay.
They reckon Yeth Hounds are the souls of children who passed away before they could be baptized. And it appears headless and wanders through the woods at night howling, as you do. How would you howl without a head, though? Always a worry.
Yeah. That is quite pondering, isn't
it? Another species in Devon of the black dog is the whist hound.
Oh, okay.
They are similar to the hounds, but they're a little bit more sinister. How could they be more sinister than a headless howling hound of the soul of a child who had passed away before they were baptized?
So
I mean,
yeah,
seriously.
surely if you're howling without a head, it'd probably sound more like a farting noise.
Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, dear. Oh my Lord. Again, where does your brain go?
Just trying to work out the mechanics of a
I know.
headless
Uh-huh.
owl.
Mhm.
I know, right? So we're on the Whist Hounds now. They hunt in packs across Dartmoor, and it is rumoured the huntsman is the devil himself.
Okay.
Oh, of course it would be, wouldn't it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
They are said to haunt Wistman's Wood, which is basically a high altitude tangle of moss covered oak trees, as well as the surrounding area of Dewiston. That is an Iron Age hill fort on a rocky outcrop above the River Plym.
Mhm.
Okay. I wonder if they had any smuggler issues.
No, I don't know, but, and I really want to know how they worked this one out. Any mortal dog who hears the horrendous howling of the Whist Hound soon dies.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
How do they know that?
I
Did a
don't know.
dog sit up and go, "Oh, I've just heard the howling of the Whist Hound," and then
Yeah.
die? I mean, I don't know. And dogs hear different levels to eat. To eat.
To what?
Maybe
To what
the
we
owner.
do, yeah.
Maybe it was the dog owner that heard it, and then a couple of days later, their dog died.
Oh, maybe it was, but I don't know. But it says any mortal dog.
Yeah, I do get. Yeah. Yeah, without the dogs telling you.
One wonders.
Yeah.
One wonders indeed.
Smuggling
Anyway,
issues.
what reminds me of that is the Wild Hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does have overtones of that, doesn't it?
Overtones of the Wild Hunt in there. A different Devon legend claims the spirit. Poor. Oh dear, it gets worse. The spirit of Sir Francis Drake, as a punishment for his obsession with the occult, is forced to drive a black hearse coach through the night between Tavistock and Plymouth.
All right.
Okay, so Sir Francis
Okay.
Drake driving a coach through the night between Tavistock and Plymouth. Headless horses pull the coach.
Of course.
Followed by demons and black headless hounds.
Okay.
Headless again. Now, again, that to me has the overtones of the Wild Hunt. Basically, you've got it's a Fey legend
Mhm.
that when they change location, on the solstices.
Yeah.
That it's a massive procession whilst they're on their way. So it is like, all sorts of characters are supposed to have been seen in that. So this comes into legends of King Arthur, Odin,
Mhm.
Herne the Hunter, Carinus, all of those kind of things. Now, the coach thing is a modern addition. It's never, when you talk about the Wild Hunt, that never it's got a coach involved in it. It's always horses and dancing and prancing fae basically running alongside that kind of thing, right? So they think that's just a modern addition
Right.
to it, but it's going to be if Sir Francis Drake's involved, a relatively modern addition. Another piece of Devon folklore regarding black dogs is to do with an aristocrat named Richard Cabell. Now, Cabell was not a nice person at all in any way, shape, or form. He was a squire of Buck Fastly on Dartmoor's southern fringe. He was rumoured to have murdered his wife, sold his soul to the devil. And when he died, people were quite relieved. He was an obsessive hunter, and apparently he saw no reason why death should interfere with that, basically. One night, on the night of his burial, a pack of ghostly black dogs came across Dartmoor to stand howling at his tomb, and Cabell's ghost began leading these dogs in his own version of the Wild Hunt over the moors at night, especially on the anniversary of his death.
Right.
If he didn't feel like going out hunting, the dogs would just hang around his grave and basically upsetting Buck Fastley's residents with their howling, barking, and unearthly shrieks. So, to kind of like stop Cabell from rising, they laid a heavy slab over his grave and built a mausoleum above it. Now, apparently that was successful, because after that they didn't have any further problems. But even in Buck Fastley today, youngsters there dare each other to stretch their arms through the mausoleum's barred windows and touch Cabell's tomb, hoping that the wicked spirit won't seize them.
Oh, yeah, you can't beat it. Young kids in
That
the
sounds like
graveyard.
a fun thing to do on Halloween.
It does, doesn't it?
Mm.
I bet that's the local area where the police have to
Yes,
cordon
cordon off.
off. Oh dear, gotta love it, right? I've been to
Absolutely.
Buckfastleigh.
All right.
I'm sure I've been to Buckfastleigh. I'm sure that's where Buckfast Abbey is
Right.
Okay.
with the bees, and that's where I found that pamphlet on the Exorcist.
Ah,
Oh, okay.
Ah, see, guys, it all ties
Yeah,
together. It all
does, doesn't
ties
it?
together. So, Arthur Conan Doyle wrote a book called The Hound of the Baskervilles. The Baskerville was the name of one of the coachmen at the house he stayed in. It's set on Dartmoor and tells of a story of a devilish dog, an enormous coal black hound. And basically, oh, God, this has haunted the aristocratic Baskerville family, and the haunting began as a punishment for the behaviour of Hugo Baskerville, who is very reminiscent of Richard Cabell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the dog appears just before the deaths of the family heirs, and deaths that obviously are premature, which is why Sherlock Holmes gets involved, right?
Yeah.
Now, we don't know exactly where Arthur Conan Doyle got his own inspirations for that particular book, but he says that it was nothing more than a remark by his friend Fletcher Robinson about a legend about a dog on a moor connected with some old family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was sort of like what he says. But when you read it, it really does have overtones of the Richard Cabell scenario and how he built his mystery up around those sort of things, right?
Mm.
We know that Arthur Conan Doyle holidayed near Norfolk in Cromer, where the black dog
Yeah, well, those are
legends are
strong.
quite strong.
Yeah.
And he actually stayed at Cromer Hall, and that actually matches the Baskerville Hall, the description of the Baskerville Hall.
Oh, right.
And another possible source would be Crowsley Park in Oxfordshire, and that actually has statues of hellhounds with spears through their mouths in the front on the lintel above Crowsley Park House.
Right.
And the estate was owned by the Baskerville family, and Florence Baskerville married one of Doyle's friends. So maybe all those things came together for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, Richard Cabell, nasty man who's supposed to have murdered his family, yeah, and they built the mausoleum to quieten his spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you go there, you'll find that the family tomb is a family tomb, and there are tombs in there that are older than his.
Right.
Okay.
So they don't. It's a story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't built after his death, and it's also unlikely that he actually killed his wife, because it's actually mentioned. She is actually mentioned in his 1671 will.
Right.
Okay.
So, gotta love a folk story, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But when you research some of the folk stories, they don't always hold water.
Oh no, of course they
Oh,
don't.
no. Because, they're sort of, they're to be taken with a very large pinch of salt.
Mm-hmm. Now, we're going to go further west if we find the black dog legend in Cornwall. Now, yes, there are basically a lot of tin mining going on in that area, and the scene of quite a lot of these accidents, a dark coloured canine is featured. There is also a Cornish version of the Wild Hunt. The village area of St. Germans is haunted by a pack of dogs that belonged to a wicked priest named Dando. Right. I'm going to tell you the story of this, right? And then you're going to go, oh my God, Richard Cabell all over again. Okay. So Dando was a keen huntsman who regularly committed sacrilege of hunting on the Sabbath. He was a heavy drinker, and he basically said that if people don't give him enough to drink, he'd go to hell to get it. Okay. A strange huntsman stepped forward, offered Dando a drink, seized and dragged him down to the underworld. And Dando's dogs can still be heard on Sunday mornings, basically hunting, they say.
Okay.
And there's another legend, and sometimes it gets confused with old Dando. This is the devil's dandy dogs. Oh, God. Satan himself is in charge of this pack, and his dogs are not just phantoms, but genuine flame-breathing hellhounds.
Ooh.
This terrifying hunt roams the moors, and basically, if you're a traveller and you hear it, basically get down on your knees and pray that the dandy dogs don't come in your direction. These are the dogs that are supposed to have pursued Jane Treagle, who was Jan Treagle, sorry, a damned soul who escaped from hell. Basically, Jan is said to haunt the eerie Dosmary Pool high on Bodmin Moor. Stormy nights, you can hear his shrieks alongside the howls of the dogs that chase him. I love these tales. They're brilliant.
They're great,
aren't
aren't
they? Absolutely.
They are
brilliant.
good.
Mm-hmm. Now let's talk about legends of Scandinavia and Britain churchyards, right? The church grim. Now, this is more a nicer one. We're going to end on a nicer one. This protects the churchyard from all who would desecrate it, including vandals, witches, warlocks, thieves, and even the devil. Okay?
Yep.
The tradition is that the spirit of the first person to be buried in a churchyard would be tasked with guarding it.
Mm-hmm.
In Scotland, the last person buried in a cemetery would have to be its guardian until somebody else was buried in there.
Right.
So it could be quite a while. That could be a very short period of time. And basically, to save the spirits of the departed from these duties, because that's below us human spirits, right?
Yeah.
A large black dog would be buried in the churchyard, in the foundations of the church itself, generally under the cornerstone. And that is charged with the duties of guardianship.
Right.
Some say
It
the
really
black
is
dog.
man's best friend.
Yeah. Some say the black dog's ghost tolls the church bell at midnight on the eve of the death of a local resident even.
Right.
And during the funeral service, the clergyman might just spot the grim watching from the church tower.
See, it's not all bad, is it?
Depending on the dog's behaviour, will say whether the deceased person will be going to hell or to heaven. I reckon mine's going to be laying on his back with his legs up, waiting for a belly rub, is what I reckon. And sometimes the grim, this goes back to the Bungay Church kind of thing, is associated with stormy weather. And I think that's where the Anglian link comes through on this one. And the grim has also been shown to take the form of a horse or a pig.
Right.
Yeah. Right. There
Awesome.
are some others. Oh God, there are so many. So many legends surrounding the black dog. It is fun to go out, look them up, guys. I found quite a few stories out there. We were not going to go into it. Check out a guy called David Castleton. He's written a fabulous article on black dogs and their mythology. And as for the folklore side of it, and the other side of it, a guy called Eric Edwards was very helpful in that kind of side of things. So those two guys, go check them out. They're absolutely brilliant writers. You need to go and check their work out. I thoroughly enjoyed having a look at this little topic. I don't know about you two.
Oh
Oh
yeah,
no,
definitely.
I do like the Black Dog, as I said at the start of the show. It is one
Yeah.
of my favourite sort of little things to read about and to have a look at the legends of. I mean, you're never left wanting.
No, and in regards to the stories, we've literally skimmed the surface, was what I was going for there. Of those. As I say, go check those two writers out. Absolutely fascinating work. One more from a historical perspective, and the other one from the tales and legends. Absolutely brilliant. I love this topic. I have to say, I didn't think I was going to get very far with it because it's a vast topic, but so spread out in regards to locality. But somebody did the work for me, so thank you very much, guys. Paul. Hello.
He's gone.
He's
Hello.
gone. Oh, he must have. Hello, Paul. Is anybody there?
I think
Not
he's
once
dropped.
for yet, twice for no. Okay, well, on that note, let's talk about our website, paranormalconcept.com. Go over there. You could check out our blogs, links to our books, and all of our past shows. We've talked about a couple of those that we've done tonight as well. That's the Newgate Prison show and the Gallows show. They're quite early on, but they're still there, available to have a listen to if you're interested in those fascinating topics in their own right. And if you follow us on social media, go check out the Paranormal Concept Show, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and you will keep up to date with all of our offerings in regards to, oh gosh, just about every area of the paranormal. We cover folklore, history, spooky hauntings, all sorts. I think he's back with us. Hello, Paul.
Crashing back into the room. No.
No, he came in and fell back out again. On that note, we are actually going to say goodnight. That was just me and Richard saying goodnight.
Yeah.
We'll have to say goodnight on behalf of Paul. So say goodnight, Guy.
Good night, Guy.
And good night from Paul, and good night from me.